Last week's video was a little hard on my hand. I haven't drawn that much in a long time. Usually it's only like one or two characters with like a minimal background. The Yashahime piece took around 3 hours with proper breaks, and even with that and lots of stretching and warming up, my hands still really hurt afterwards. Not only that, I ended up talking longer than the speed paint ran for. With that in mind, I decided this video would be something a little lighter, especially since when this video goes live, I'll be away from home for about a week, so I'm recording this in advance so I don't have to worry about unpredictable factors while trying to work on another video while I'm away. Since starting this channel, I've had a lot of time to think about my sona. While I do still like the design I landed on, I don't think it really reflects my ideal presentation. At least, not now. I cut my hair fairly short and actually really enjoyed it. So while my plan was to eventually grow my hair out into the hairstyle of the current design, I've kind of ended up changing my mind. So I figured, why not revisit my sona's design and talk about my character creation process while I'm at it? This will undoubtedly be a shorter video, but after that Yashahime ramble, I think I need it. I mentioned in my first video that my initial design was far more inspired by Sailor Moon, and that Haruka was my ideal gender presentation. But my chosen color scheme to reflect my affinity for Sailor Saturn ended up reading a little more like Mamoru. I decided to revisit that and start tweaking what I originally designed, combined with elements from the current design. When it comes to character design, that's usually my first stop. There's always some sort of inspiration to it, usually a specific character or a piece of media in general. The latter is particularly important to me when it comes to fandom OCs. I'll talk more about this in depth in another video, but I'm the type of person who always has to make sure my character fits into the world I'm creating them for in that regard. For a completely original character though, the process is similar, but way more simple. I will always gather inspiration first and foremost. I'll look at whatever character or piece of media I'm currently vibing with at the moment, sometimes even with a specific aesthetic in mind. I'll look at the different elements and pick out different things that I want to include in the final design, then I'll sit and try to combine those elements in different ways until I end up with something I like. For the current design, I had some elements from Sailor Moon, as I mentioned before, but there were also some other things that I drew inspiration from. For example, the general eye shape came from the way Horikoshi drew 13's eye shape. I didn't copy the eyes directly, even though initially I did want to give this design some kind of unique eyes. I ultimately decided to keep things simple, so the actual eye is way different from 13's. The nose and the way the hair flips out at the neck came from Soul Eater, specifically Death the Kid, who I've discovered gives me big gender envy these days. But that's one of my favorite series of all time, so I felt like I had to pay it homage in some way. The glasses were because, well, I wear glasses, albeit different frames at the moment, but I do plan on getting these frames when I'm able to. But the overall vibe and aesthetic I wanted for this channel and its visuals was city pop and older anime in general. So I took some time to sit and think about what I wanted and the way I wanted to present. City pop, if you don't know, is the name of a particular genre of music from the 80s and kind of the 90s era of Japan. It wasn't originally called city pop as far as I can tell, that's more of a recent thing I think. But the music that typically falls under this umbrella is your Miki Matsubara or Maria Takeuchi, Tatsuro Yamashita, etc. I'm sure you've heard Stay With Me or Fly Day Chinatown somewhere on the internet by now. You frequently hear these style of songs paired with visuals from anime from the era in playlists on YouTube like Sailor Moon, Urusei Yatsura, the original Macross anime, and many others that I genuinely do not know the name of. It's often associated with the bright, neon-lit cityscapes of the 80s in Japan during their period of rapid economic growth. A bubble that would eventually burst somewhere in the mid-90s. A lot of colors that tend to appear in association with city pop are blues, pinks, and purples. In the end, I circled back to Sailor Moon. In particular, I looked at Haruka, Mamoru, and Helios. The OG anime for Haruka, but specifically the newer Cosmos designs for Mamoru and Helios because I liked the way their hair was drawn in those versions more. They, for the most part, actually have very similar elements. Their hair parts nearly the same way, and their eyes are essentially the same shape. Helios' hair has more wave to it, and Haruka's hair fluffs out a little more compared to Mamoru, and in the end, I don't actually think I ended up using much from Helios. For the design I settled on, I did my best to combine Haruka and Mamoru's hair, using Mamoru's bangs but fluffing it out more like Haruka's. For the eyes, I leaned more toward Haruka's with slight eyelashes, mostly because I tend to have trouble drawing eyelashes and making them look nice. For the eyebrows, I went toward Mamoru, as my own eyebrows are kind of thick, so a more masculine eyebrow kinda was where I was going. When it came to the outfit, I knew I wanted to stick with the same outfit, but change the colors up a bit. I feel like my sona blends into the background a little too much. The shirt is based on one I actually own, but heavily simplified for the ease of drawing. But the shades of blue are pretty similar, and I didn't want to change the background colors because I really liked the result. So I asked my partner for some ideas because he's much better when it comes to fashion and color coordination than I am. And he suggested going for a gradient with the same blue-purple-pink combination that's kind of repeated through the color scheme of the channel as a whole. What will the end result be? Well, you're gonna have to wait until the next video for that. I can't give away everything yet. I knew I wanted to keep the same glasses as well because eccentric and vaguely whimsical librarian is absolutely my vibe. I also initially considered giving my sona pointed ears because of my love of folklore and desire to remain connected to nature. In the end, I decided against it though because I am certainly not graceful or ethereal like Fae tend to be in the legends. Also, in the very first drafts, there were shorts and a holographic jacket. But I honestly don't wear shorts that much unless I'm lounging around the house. For no particular reason, I just tend to prefer long skirts or pants when I leave the house, despite living in Florida. Every now and then I'll wear the outfit the sona was originally going to wear because it is very much a vibe. But this outfit will still make an appearance eventually because I do plan on having different outfits for different seasons and even certain videos. Nonetheless, I think I've landed on something I'm far happier with. I feel like this much better represents myself and the vibe I want to cultivate on this channel. This may have been a shorter video, but I don't think that's a bad thing every now and then. Not everything needs to be big and elaborate, especially if you don't want to end up burning out. Personally, I find making these videos fun, even if the drawings often take several hours, and then I have to spend about another hour editing everything to flow smoothly. Not that it's entirely mindless, but I do love mindless busy work that I can just kind of zone out while working on, which tends to be the part where I draw and the part where I edit, since all I'm really doing is editing out awkward pauses or verbal typos. But I hope you all enjoyed this brief look into my character design process, and I will definitely go more in depth on a future video on the subject of OCs in general. If you have a favorite shirt design, let me know. Who knows, maybe it'll end up being the winning idea. As always, thank you so much for watching. I kind of always end up forgetting to do the proper YouTube thing. So if you liked the video, feel free to click the like button, and if you want to subscribe and listen to more of my rambling, feel free to subscribe so the algorithm overlords don't banish me to the Shadow Realm and you can come back for the next video. This channel was brought to you by viewers like you, and I'll see you in the next one.